Trade wars don't happen with warning shots anymore. They happen with contracts, tariffs, and redirected shipping containers. Right now, America is learning that lesson the hard way. 7 of its top suppliers, the lifeblood of entire industries, are turning their backs on U.S. ports and signing billion-dollar deals with Canada instead. Fighter jet metals, life-saving medicines, even your morning coffee, are all being rerouted north of the border. The White House calls it policy. Global exporters call it opportunity. In Canada, they're calling it the future. Here's how 7 countries are quietly cutting America out of its own supply chains. American trade policy has shifted from cooperation to confrontation, and the results are already reshaping global supply chains. Tariffs that were supposed to showcase strength have instead created instability. Dozens of new import duties hit industries ranging from textiles to advanced electronics, making it harder for foreign suppliers to do business in the United States. Companies across Asia, South America, and Europe, partners who once considered the U.S. the anchor of their global strategies, found themselves dealing with sudden delays, unpredictable regulations, and skyrocketing costs. For many exporters, the risk simply outweighed the reward. That's when Canada saw its opening. While America tightened the screws, Ottawa rolled out the red carpet. Canadian negotiators offered stability, where Washington offered volatility, and predictability, where the U.S. offered penalties. They promised long-term contracts, tariff-free access, and investment partnerships that actually strengthened both sides of the deal. It was the classic good neighbor strategy, and it worked. Canadian companies became the preferred partners, while American businesses were left scrambling with empty shelves and higher operating costs. This isn't just about today's shipments. It's about who controls the future. Canada is quietly securing rare earth minerals, electronics, pharmaceuticals, and agricultural commodities, resources that aren't just commercial goods, but strategic assets. Rare earths power fighter jets and smartphones. Pharmaceuticals sustain healthcare systems. Agricultural imports feed millions. Each redirected shipment, each new agreement, gives Canada leverage in industries that once defined America's edge. The irony is stark. America thought tariffs would build resilience and protect its economy. Instead, they pushed suppliers into the arms of Canada, creating a gateway for its northern neighbor to rise as the more reliable partner. With the first wave of countries already pulling away, the balance of power in North America has begun to tilt, container by container. China was once America's indispensable partner in technology supply chains. From rare earth minerals powering smartphones to metals essential for fighter jets, the U.S. relied on Beijing's massive production. But those days are ending. China now controls 60% of global mining and nearly 85% of processing capacity for rare earths, and export restrictions have been tightening. What started as bureaucratic slowdowns, longer wait times for licenses, stricter export checks, has turned into systematic redirection. Containers that once sailed toward California now unload in Vancouver. Canada's $1.2 billion deal with China secures not just supply, but processing facilities built on Canadian soil. That means Canadian companies receive guaranteed access, while U.S. firms face scarcity and spiraling costs. Electronics manufacturers in Silicon Valley already report production delays stretching quarters. Auto manufacturers struggle as components grow expensive. Defense contractors quietly warn of vulnerabilities in missile systems dependent on rare earths. Meanwhile, Canadian firms gain cost advantages and reliability that could last decades. China calls the Canadian deal a model for stable partnerships, and the message is clear. While America fights trade wars, Canada builds alliances. Rare earths aren't just commodities, they're strategic weapons. And in this war, Canada is emerging as the favored ally. India's pivot may sting the most for America because it hits consumers directly. For decades, U.S. retailers relied on India's massive textile industry for affordable clothing, while the healthcare system depended on Indian pharmaceuticals. Then came the tariffs. Suddenly, 25% penalties on apparel and levies on drug imports made Indian goods uncompetitive in U.S. markets. Canada wasted no time. Its $1.8 billion trade deal with India covers textiles, pharmaceuticals, and even IT services. Factory floors in Bangalore that once produced jeans for American malls are now contracted exclusively for Canadian retailers. Even more worrying, pharmaceutical plants that supplied 40% of America's generic drugs are expanding to prioritize Canadian healthcare needs. For American families, this means higher prices at department stores and tighter access to affordable medicines. For Canadian consumers, it means stability and lower costs. Indian IT companies are even opening offices in Canada, serving as direct competitors to U.S. tech firms. After 2 decades of loyalty to American buyers, Indian executives now say Canada offers what America used to: reliability and partnership. With every shipment redirected, American dependence grows visible. The same factories, the same workers, the same products, only the customer has changed. And that customer is now Canada. Malaysia may not be the first name that comes to mind in global trade, but its role in electronics is enormous. Semiconductors, circuit boards, and other critical components flow from Malaysian factories into everything from iPhones to automotive systems. For years, the US was a primary buyer, but after tariffs and regulatory confusion slowed shipments, Malaysia began looking elsewhere. Canada stepped in with a $900 million electronics and palm oil trade agreement that included investment in Malaysian semiconductor facilities. The result? Production lines that once supplied American tech firms are now contracted through Canadian distribution networks. That means Canadian manufacturers enjoy reliable, cost-competitive access, while U.S. companies face shortages and price spikes. The palm oil component adds another blow. Malaysia produces nearly 40% of the world's palm oil, used in countless food and cosmetic products. Canadian companies secured preferential access, while American manufacturers are left with higher costs. Malaysian officials describe relief at working with a partner that offers stability, unlike America's volatility. Canadian companies are even establishing joint R&D facilities in Malaysia, creating innovation pipelines that once would have pointed towards Silicon Valley. Every diverted shipment represents another Canadian advantage and another American industry, weakened by self-imposed trade barriers. Your morning coffee is now part of a billion-dollar shift. Brazil, which supplies about 35% of America's coffee beans, faced a devastating 50% tariff from U.S. trade policy. That decision transformed a $45 billion American coffee industry overnight. But Canada was ready. Its $1.5 billion agricultural agreement with Brazil guarantees not only coffee, but also beef, soybeans, and other staples. Canadian investment in Brazilian processing facilities ensures that premium beans flow through Canadian ports first, with America left scrambling for leftovers. The impact is immediate. Canadian roasters secure high-quality beans at stable prices, while American cafes pass higher costs on to customers. But it's not just coffee. Brazilian beef and soy, once staples in American food chains, now fuel Canada's food security strategy. Even Brazilian footwear manufacturers are redirecting production lines to Canadian retailers. Brazil holds some of the largest reserves of agricultural resources on Earth, and its leaders now describe Canada as their most reliable North American partner. America's tariffs didn't just create higher prices, they created new trade routes that bypass U.S. entirely. Every redirected container of beans, beef, or soy strengthens Canada's agricultural dominance, and every empty American shelf reminds consumers that tariffs come with a hidden cost: scarcity. Thailand's trade shift underscores how quickly entire industries can pivot. Once a steady supplier of automotive parts, electronics, rice, and seafood to U.S. markets, Thai exporters are now prioritizing Canada. The reason? U.S. tariffs created unworkable math. A 36% penalty on imports made contracts financially impossible. Canadian negotiators responded with a $1.1 billion package covering manufacturing and agriculture, including direct investment in Thai factories. Production lines, once calibrated for American automakers, now supply Canadian and European companies. Electronics manufacturers, too, are redirecting shipments through Canadian distribution hubs. For American businesses, this means higher costs and reduced access. For Canadian retailers, it means predictable supply at competitive rates. Thai rice and tropical fruit exporters have already shifted shipments toward Canada, while U.S. importers face inflated prices. What's more, Thai firms are opening regional offices in Canada, effectively using it as a tariff-free backdoor to American consumers. That makes Canada not just a trade partner, but a gateway. Thailand's leaders call the deal a model for resilient trade. For America, it represents another blow to supply chains once considered untouchable. Every lost shipment of automotive parts, electronics, or rice is another reminder. Tariffs don't build partnerships. They destroy them. South Africa's pivot cuts deep because it strikes two crucial sectors: automobiles and minerals. U.S. tariffs placed a 30% penalty on South African automotive parts, instantly making long-term contracts unviable. Canadian negotiators saw the opening and secured an $800 million agreement covering both automotive manufacturing and mining output. South African plants in Johannesburg that once displayed Made for America banners now showcase Canadian partnerships. Canadian automakers gain reliable access to components, while U.S. car companies struggle with rising costs. But the mining side is even more strategic. South Africa is one of the world's largest producers of platinum and palladium, both essential for catalytic converters, electronics, and renewable energy systems. Under the deal, Canada secures preferential access to these resources, leaving U.S. industries vulnerable to shortages. Even agriculture plays a role. South African wine and citrus that once filled American supermarkets now stock Canadian shelves. South African executives describe Canada as a partner who treats business as business rather than politics. For America, the loss is devastating. Higher costs, reduced supply, and increased vulnerability in industries ranging from cars to clean energy. Once again, tariffs pushed a key partner away, and Canada welcomed them with open arms. Perhaps the sharpest blow comes from Switzerland. Known for its precision instruments, luxury watches, and advanced manufacturing technology, Swiss exports once defined excellence in American industries. But when tariffs of nearly 40% were slapped on Swiss goods, long-standing partnerships collapsed overnight. Swiss watchmakers refused to absorb losses, instead signing exclusive distribution deals with Canadian firms. A $10,000 timepiece that cost American buyers $13,900 after tariffs now reaches Canadian retailers without penalty. The bigger story is machinery. Swiss precision tools used in aerospace, medical devices, and energy systems are now flowing primarily to Canadian manufacturers, who enjoy direct access at competitive rates. America, once reliant on Swiss innovation, is being priced out. The $1.3 billion agreement also covers medical equipment and biotech inputs that American healthcare systems depend on. With Canadian investment in Swiss R&D, entire innovation pipelines now bypass U.S. institutions. Even Swiss banks are establishing operations in Canada, financing trade that cuts America out of the loop. For American manufacturers, this is more than lost luxury. It's lost competitiveness. When the world's most precise and advanced equipment stops shipping to your ports, your industries lose the sharpness they once had. Canada gains it, along with a decisive technological edge. Canada didn't overthrow America's trade dominance with a single stroke. It happened slowly, almost invisibly, container by container, shipment by shipment, until 7 of the United States' most vital suppliers had quietly rerouted their exports north. What began as tariffs meant to display strength transformed into an exodus of opportunity. Rare earth minerals, life-saving medicines, electronics, coffee beans, automotive parts, precious metals, and even Swiss precision tools now flow through Canadian ports instead of American ones. Each deal wasn't just about trade, it was about trust. And trust, once lost, is nearly impossible to win back. The outcome is unmistakable. While American businesses struggle with shortages, rising prices, and broken supply chains, Canadian companies are securing long-term advantages that will define industries for decades. It's not just about cheaper coffee or electronics. It's about who controls the future of technology, food security, and industrial power. Canada positioned itself as the steady hand, the reliable neighbor, while America became the volatile risk. That shift is already reshaping North America's balance of power. If this opens your eyes to the hidden moves changing global trade, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because the next deal signed may change the world again, and you won't want to miss it. You won't want to miss it.